Hey everyone, today we're diving into one of the most powerful algorithms in all of machine learning, gradient boosting. We're going to break down how this technique gets so smart by doing something that feels very human. It just relentlessly learns from its own mistakes.
Okay, let's get right into it. The goal here is simple. I want to give you that perfect, crisp, one-sentence answer you can pull out in your next job interview. But more importantly, we're going to build a really solid intuition for how this amazing technique actually works under the hood.
It all boils down to this one question. How can a machine, it's just a bunch of code, right? How can it actually learn from its errors? It sounds almost like a person, doesn't it? Well, this very idea is the secret sauce behind gradient boosting's power, and we are about to unpack it.
All right, here it is, the interview answer. Now, I know, that is a mouthful. It's packed with all sorts of technical jargon, but don't you worry. The rest of this explainer is designed to make every single part of that sentence crystal clear. We're going to take it apart piece by piece.
And, the best way to really get a handle on a complex idea is with a simple analogy. So let's use one that's going to make this whole concept just click. So let's paint a picture. Imagine a student, and they've just been handed a big set of math problems. This student, well, they represent our first simple model. They're making their very first attempt at a prediction. Okay, now a teacher comes along to check the student's work. But here's the twist. This teacher has a really specific method. They completely ignore everything the student got right. Instead, they are laser-focused 100% on just the mistakes.
So here's the crucial step. The student is then told, hey, forget about the problems you already know. For now, put all of your energy into understanding and practicing only the specific problems you got wrong. It's super targeted practice.
And you just repeat this cycle over and over and over. Solve, find the mistakes, and then focus on fixing just those mistakes. With every single round, the student gets better and better until they're amazingly accurate. And that, in a nutshell, is the core idea of gradient boosting. So now that we have that intuition, let's pop the hood and take a look at the actual step-by-step recipe the algorithm follows to pull this off. First things first, there's one key piece of lingo we need, the residual. It sounds fancy, but a residual is simply the technical term for the error. It's the difference between the real, correct answer and what our model predicted. So in our little story, the residual is the student's mistake. So this is how the algorithm formalizes our analogy. It starts with a really simple first guess, maybe just the average of all the data. Then it calculates the mistakes, or residuals. But here, in step 3, this is where the magic happens. The algorithm trains a brand new, tiny model, whose only job in the world is to predict the mistakes from the last round. Then it updates the overall prediction and just keeps repeating this, adding more and more specialized mistake fixers to the team. And this simple little formula, this is basically the secret sauce. You take your last prediction, and you add a small correction based on what the newest mistake fixer model found. Now, that learning rate is a really important dial you can tune. Think of it like telling the student how much to adjust their thinking based on the latest correction. A small learning rate means taking tiny, careful steps, which helps avoid overcorrecting and making a new mistake.
So why go through all this trouble? What's the big deal with this whole sequential process? Well, let's get into why data scientists consider this an absolute champion's tool.
Well, the payoff for all this careful step-by-step learning is absolutely huge. Gradient boosting is famous for its ridiculously high predictive accuracy. It's a rock star when it comes to the kind of structured, tabular data you find in spreadsheets and databases. And it's a master at finding these complex, nonlinear patterns that simpler models would just miss completely. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This thing's power is proven time and time again in the real world, especially in those intense data science competitions. You'll hear its most famous versions mentioned all the time. We're talking XGBoost, LightGBM, and CatBoost. These are the heavy hitters, the high-performance engines that data scientists use to win. Now, to really understand where gradient boosting fits in, it really helps to compare it to its biggest rival in the world of tree-based models, the good old random forest. This lays out the huge difference in philosophy between them. A random forest is kind of like a committee of independent experts. They all train at the same time in parallel and then vote on the final answer. Its main goal is to reduce variance, which means it's really good at not getting thrown off by weird noise in the data. Gradient boosting, as we've seen, is that team of specialists learning one after another. Its main goal is to reduce bias. It works tirelessly to correct its own systemic errors to get closer and closer to the truth.
But hey, like any powerful tool, it's not the perfect solution for every single problem. So for our final takeaway, it is absolutely crucial to understand the trade-offs. Because it builds these models one by one, the training can definitely be slower than other methods. And since it's completely obsessed with correcting every last mistake, it can sometimes be a little too sensitive to noisy data or outliers. It might try to fix an error that was really just a random fluke in the data. And all of this means that to get the best performance, you really have to spend some time carefully tuning it. So let's bring it all home with this one core idea. If you remember literally anything from our chat today, remember this. Gradient boosting builds many small models, with each new model focusing on correcting the mistakes of the previous one. That's it. It is a relentless, focused process of improvement. And this leaves us with a pretty exciting thought, right? If we can build algorithms that can improve this relentlessly, just by learning from their mistakes, what truly complex, truly important problems should we be pointing them at next?